Guys, welcome back to the Match App Podcast with myself, Paul Ciotto, Christopher Shea.
How's it going?
And we got a real treat for you guys today. So, what we want to preface the episode is, it's the message we're trying to send is going to be broad scope, but the character Popeye from the cartoon series, he had a saying. It was called, "That's all I can stand, and I can't stand no more." So we use that obviously because it's Popeye, but it's, I think, in a broad perspective what we're describing here, it's perfect context. So, for those of you who don't know, obviously if you watch the podcast that we've done, we talk a lot about things we've done, what our kids have done, but specifically for Chris, he kind of like was a trendsetter from where we come from in the town that we live in the sense that he had elite level boys, elite level athletes in his sons, saw the potential there, knew what he needed to do to get them to the next level. And when he realized what was around him was not going to provide that, you kind of set the tone. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, to say, hey, listen, you started it. And then, for the sake of anonymity, because I don't have permission to say other people's names, but person X did it with their son, person Y did it with their son, person so on and so forth did it with their sons or daughters. But for you particularly, talk about what actually made you finally say, I had enough of this fucking shit.
Yeah.
I gotta. Otherwise, these boys are not gonna be able to get scholarships to go to college. I mean, for lack of a better term, lack of a better description. I'm sorry.
Here's the thing. Each person has to be realistic with themselves. Is your kid good? I mean, everyone thinks their kid is good.
Correct.
But is your kid really good? And the only way you can really test them is, and let me tell you something, where we live, and I don't mean to cut on anybody or any of the sports, but where we live, you have a lot of very large fish in a very small pond.
Correct.
Don't get me wrong, you have your elite ones that go out and they don't just travel in the state, they travel outside the state, and they're doing the things that to really use that measuring stick is my kid really good and can he go to that next level? And I have to be honest, at this point we were traveling a national circuit. So we were all over, from out in Oklahoma, up and down the East Coast, in the Midwest. We were really traveling.
Are you guys talking about wrestling specifically?
I am.
He is, but we're talking in
sports in general.
Sports in general.
Yeah,
this is not about wrestling. It's about sports in general.
If you really want to know,
example,
you really want to know how good your kid is, you can't just be in your little microcosm. You gotta spread out. You gotta open up your playing field, regardless of what sport it is.
Correct.
So once you start traveling, you start meeting people on the national circuit. Again, regardless of the sport, you start to really get an idea, is my kid really good, or is he just a big fish in a small pond?
Right.
And I started to notice that my kids started off as a big fish in a small pond, then they became kind of a little bigger fish in a medium pond. And by 8th grade, my kids were competing at the national level, finding some good success. And I was noticing that they're getting to be bigger fish in even a larger spectrum and a larger pond.
In the ocean.
So I said to myself, all right, do I think our town has the capabilities to get them to the next level? And again, this is non-sport specific. I said no. And it wasn't so much the coaching, but it was to a degree.
It's definitely coaching.
Yeah, it's the coaching's part of it. The competition is even bigger. And in my town specifically, we didn't have a culture that sometimes needs to be created.
Absolutely.
We had a team. Okay, right. A team is good, but we would travel to Jersey, we would travel to Pennsylvania, and I noticed that these schools, they didn't just have a team, they had a culture. They had an environment that was set up for success.
For winning.
Yeah, absolutely. We would go to certain tournaments and there'd be 40 people. We would go to other tournaments in other areas, or just matches, there'd be cheerleaders. They'd have DJs going. I know that our town is starting to try and incorporate some of that, but at the time it wasn't really happening. They would have cheerleaders. They would have 4,000 or 5,000 people showing up to a match. I was fortunate enough to be able to send my kids down to Jersey to wrestle at a good school, and I can remember when we actually.
And the education was.
And the education is excellent, no question.
You got to clarify when you say that sending to Jersey, you're talking about high school.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Prep school, like you're living somewhere.
What happened was when I finally figured that Well, my
there
son-
wasn't what they needed wasn't going to be in the town.
That's it.
He did-
I'm trying to
you
be
know.
nice about it, but what my boys needed
Don't be
wasn't,
nice.
yeah,
You got
wasn't going to be in the town yet.
What we want to, what I want to have happen here today is we want everyone to use this as a template, and to take this and try and apply that when you, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's most
probably
likely
a
a duck. So you want to take what we're saying today and apply it to any what your surroundings are. We're going to use the surrounding of what our town is like and why it preempted things. But I think that you got to get specific about what
at
it
the
was.
time there wasn't any good clubs at the elementary school level where my kids were able to be brought to the next level. We were traveling about an hour and 30 minutes 3 times a week to try and make it to these different schools where we can get the training partners and we can get the good
That's how
coaching.
you got them better when they were younger. You would leave town to other
Oh,
places.
100%. No,
that
absolutely
wasn't
had to.
clear before. So
Yeah, no,
you have
absolutely
to have
had
people,
to.
you have to have coaches and people
Like-minded individuals.
and people with a vision and actually can see talent for what it is. But get specific into what you saw from coaching to administration to parents. Get the specifics as to why you're like, we're done. We're
Okay.
out of here.
Here's the
I think
thing.
that's what's important.
There's a lot of people that are just sucking for a lot.
They're drinking the Kool-Aid.
They're drinking the Kool-Aid. They think that where they are is the best. They think the coaches are the best. They think the parents know what it takes to get to the next level. And let me be honest, I was one of them at first.
Sure, we all are. 'Cause you
Okay.
don't know any better.
Once I left our boundaries, meaning New Fairfield specifically, Connecticut, and I started going into other states, let me tell you something. There's a whole different realm out there, and now you understand why these kids are successful. Because guess what? The culture and the breeding there is about that specific sport.
Listen, let's face it. When I know, because having knowledge of that situation, being part of it, because
Yeah.
I have a child in the sport, but I also have another child in another sport. And I think more importantly, what I've realized and what I saw a long time ago was that because there's no culture, and because the coaches are subpar, coaching for wrestling and football in New Fairfield, subpar. You may have maybe 1 or 2 people that actually can coach a sport, that actually have the vision, that do the training, that go get educated, to go to the clinics, to do what they have to do. They don't have blinders on, and it's unfortunate. But then you also have administration
That aren't backing up.
Listen, I can tell you that I was told by an administrator at New Fairfield that I don't care about the success of the teams, that I want them to succeed, but it's not on my radar. Talk to me about academics. And the idiocy of that is that anyone that understands that in education and athletics is that both go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have a liberal administrator who says nonsense like that is the reason why it trickles down from the top to the AD to the coaching. And that's ultimately what happens in that town. And I think more so, right? Give some particulars of what happened with you.
I didn't even let it get that far.
You didn't.
I gotta be honest. The minute I saw the way it was really supposed to work and the way it was really supposed to run, I immediately said, this is what I need, this is what my boys need, and this is the only way we're gonna get to the next level. Now, I gotta be honest, if your son's a super freak, and there's guys out there like a Kevin Jack or somebody, listen, he's a homegrown kid from Connecticut, and there's a bunch of others, I'm leaving names out. But there's some super freaks out there. Now, mind you, Danbury's got a culture. Okay, but if they're the super freaks that are out there, that it doesn't matter where they are, they're gonna shine. My boys were good, I don't wanna call them super freaks. You put them into that environment and iron sharpens iron.
Correct.
And in New Fairfield, it's probably tin foil.
Oh,
It's not iron sharpens iron.
I don't care what sport it is.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
I mean, I give you one perfect example. I can remember I stopped sending my boys to the practices here and to some of the clubs. And one of the coaches came up to me and said, hey man, we really would like your boys there. They set a tone for the room. They elevate the room, yada, yada, yada. Can you please send them? He goes, Chris, I promise you, I will work them hard. I promise you. I said, you know what, buddy? My kids will be there. I love you. You're a great guy, awesome coach. I'm going to send my kids. My kids go to the practice. I show up probably the last half an hour, I'm watching, I go, holy smokes, this is an amazing practice. These kids are working hard, they're being aggressive, they're doing all the things they need to do to be successful. And when the practice ended, I went up to my boys, they go, so what'd you think? Because I gotta be honest, My boys knew enough not to want to be there.
Correct.
Okay? They were like, Dad, we're wasting our time. Okay? So when I went in there to pick them up, I said, so? Did I waste your time? They go, absolutely not. The practice was awesome. The whole room elevated. Everyone was working hard. I was like, wow. And now, mind you, in New Fairfield, the way practices work is the kids go and the parents sit there and watch.
Yeah,
and they complain and they chit-chat and they put their 2 cents in and they do all this other stuff. More importantly, I think they're doing that just so they can decide how the practices are supposed to be run. They're not being run by the coaches. And what I mean by that is, as we left, I called the specific coach and said, hey man, you gave a good practice. You keep doing that, my boys will be there at least a couple times a week when we're not training outside.
I remember this story.
Sure enough, he says, Chris, I promise you, the whole room was elevated. It was great. We're gonna do it. I get a call back because it's the next day and he wants me to come to practice. He says, don't even bother coming. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, Chris, I got like 6 or 7 phone calls from parents in the room that said they're gonna quit and they're gonna report you to whoever the authorities are. Not authorities in a bad way, but like to the administration, that the practice was too hard. Their kids came home sore and they didn't like working that hard. Are you fucking kidding me? That's when I said to myself, we're done, goodbye, you'll never see me again. We left and both of my boys are, the resting at the college level and they're finding some success.
Well, I think perfectly you described it in a very nice way
The parents are running the practices, not the coaches. Here's my advice. If you are at a practice field, regardless of the sport, and the parents are there and they actually have input and they're not coaches, you need to find some other place for them to go. Because I have to be honest, we've actually found a club where we're at now. And I'm comfortable enough and I trust in the coaches enough to where I drop my kid off and I literally sit in my car and he comes running out. I don't need to watch to make sure the right things are being done. I don't need to watch to make sure that he's getting the right practice partners, because the coaches know if my son is slacking, he needs to go over here, he needs to do this. They're not going to allow it. Unfortunately, because of all the bureaucratic politics at and this is a club, so there's no real politics.
No.
At the school levels and at the town levels, that's how they do it. It's their influence, not by the way these kids progress or not by how well they perform. They're influenced by what the parents think is good.
It's a trickle down effect. Like I said, when we had a similar instance in football that we're still dealing with at this point, where football coaches suck in New Fairfield. They're biased. The nepotism was ridiculous. They went out of their way to hurt my kid and a bunch of other kids, and specifically a class. Broke CIAC rules, broke Rebel Handbook rules. Oh yeah, twice.
How does that even
Don't even get me started. It's not over.
Coaches get fired for that type of stuff. Listen, nepotism, you can get away, you can do your ways around it. Oh, he got his place. But, breaking those type of
code of conduct rules broke 2 years in a row, and administration did little to nothing about it.
This sounds like a whole other podcast.
It's a whole, trust me, and we're going to get to that. It's because this is far from over. Trust me when I tell you. It's a scenario where, listen, I saw all the same things you did for years and tried to help the situation, and realized when you're viewed as someone that's going to rock the boat and you don't have that culture, like you said, what happens? But as you delve into it and you see, and when you get to the upper echelons of administration down, you realize it's a disease. It's a disease. But the point being is, the greatest mistake I made as a parent was not just telling my kid at the time, I don't give a shit what you want to do, you're done. Okay? Thank God it worked out. And if you asked him today, he would have been gladly have done that. But the point being is, that's my mistake. And I regurgitate to people and know all the time, I would have done that immediately. But it still doesn't make okay what has been done over the last few years and for years. And the fact of the matter is, listen, you got people, and again, like we said, they drink the Kool-Aid. And the fact of the matter is, I'd love people to be able to say, if it was your kid, what would you do? What would you do if it was your kid? Yeah. So what happens is, now it's my mission and the mission of a bunch of us to make sure this doesn't happen going forward.
Well, someone has to protect the kids.
Exactly, and that's what it comes down to. So if administration is not going to protect the kids, and then parents that decide to drink Kool-Aid and not understand the facts of something, okay, before opening their big fucking mouths, all right, and making a judgment, read and know the facts. Take your emotions out of it. Because then what happens is that you have chaos. See, I don't deal on chaos. I deal on the facts. And the facts of the matter are poor culture, administration that dropped the ball, coaches who are horrible, and kids got hurt. Okay? And at the end of the day,
that's not okay.
That's not okay. So anyone that thinks that I'm going to walk away from it or the people that are around us are going to walk away from it, you're out of your fucking minds. It's not going to happen. I can tell you right now. It doesn't make a difference if my kids all graduate from that school. It's not going to be left alone. Not one bit. Because when you go by the book and you follow the rules and you do everything you're supposed to do, and administration doesn't take care of the problem, then guess what? That's when the gloves come off. And like Popeye says,
it's all I can stand.
It's all I can stand, and I can't stand no more. And I challenge anybody or anyone out there that's going to see or hear this, you're welcome to come onto this podcast and explain to us why we're wrong. Explain to us why these people, these coaches, are such great people.
Here's
Tell
my
me
thing.
why.
If they don't have balls on the field, they're not going to have the balls to show up here.
Well, yeah.
So I say, we challenge your balls.
Yeah.
Come on the podcast.
Come on the podcast and have an intelligent debate, because I have the facts, and the facts are going to come out very, very soon about the situation there, because it's not okay. And this goes out to all you coaches out there that say you're about the kids. Any of you coaches that have sat back and let another coach ruin a program, hurt kids, break rules repetitively, and do nothing about it, you're full of shit. You're not about kids. You're about yourself and your own agendas. Because anybody that's about a kid would handle that situation and take that bad apple and do something about it. And if you can't handle that bad apple internally to turn it around, then you take it to the next level and say, we need to get rid of the rotten apple. We need to change here. So it goes out to all you coaches. Every one of you, I've said something to your faces. You're not about the kids. You're about your fucking selves.
Why would they do stuff like this? Like, what's the purpose?
Because again,
is it
the path of least resistance. And the bottom line is, when you don't want real change, and at the end of the day you don't give a shit, and you want to be a good old boy, and you want to be everyone's buddy, and you don't worry about what's gone down or go by the facts, this is what happens. So they rub your ass. They don't go by facts. Listen, I'm animated about it, I'm agitated about it, but I'm working on facts. I have the facts. You have the facts. The facts are presented, which made you make the change.
Yeah.
The facts have been in my face for 4 years. Okay?
And guess what?
Yeah.
You can be everybody's pal.
Correct.
The kids can love you. But at the end of the day, and listen, it may even work in our favor, but at the end of the day, if you're breaking rules,
Right. Absolutely.
that's a problem. I don't care how much you're
rules
loved.
and administration doesn't even do anything about it. Tells you they are, and then you're not even given, as a taxpayer, you're not even given what that list of sanctions or punishments are. And meanwhile, business goes on as usual. And the fact of the matter is, and then you want to know why the upheaval continues. And then you want to know why this goes into the next season and the season after that.
But more importantly, what about the ramifications on the kids?
That's
listen,
one.
parents is one thing.
I
Listen,
agree.
I get my feelings hurt. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. But you start affecting the lives of children.
That's right.
Now you're diving into a whole new pool. And I think the administration has to be there to protect those kids.
are you guys talking? Is it more specific to your town, or is this like a bigger thing?
I'm sure
That's a big thing.
Town.
Listen, we're going on our experiences, but I've heard these things many a times. And the fact of the matter is that we're speaking today as a template, specifically to the cause. And the fact of the matter is, you can't be quiet. You can't. And when you see wrongs that are not being corrected, that can affect the kids, we have personally, I've seen him do it on the other side of a different sport. I have personally counseled kids who, because of their experience under this regime in New Fairfield, who have talent, that were just going to give it up because of how they were treated. And because of the process. And I have turned specifically around 2 kids who I had to sit down for months and months and months and make them believe in themselves and understand, show them, listen, this isn't correct. What was done wasn't correct. They're wrong. Okay? You can do it. Just do it on your own. Take the template.
Can you elaborate at all? Because I'm curious. Is that another episode?
That's another episode.
All right.
But trust me, we're going to have another guest on here who was going to be with us, and we're going to get into it.
This sounds pretty bad. If
It is
people
very
are
bad.
Breaking down kids.
Yeah,
And here's my message to the parents too. And number one, I compliment you for being the one who's willing to say enough is enough and stand up. For all you parents out there that are in a different town, in a different situation, or shame on you for not sticking up for your kids, or shame on you, more importantly, for not sticking up for the lesser kid.
Right. Well, the thing is this, is that it's about the vision, like you said. And when you can look at a student athlete and say, hey, this person needs this push in this direction, and they can be really successful, but you're surrounded by a group of coaches who are full of nepotism, who are not good coaches, who aren't good human beings, have proven so time and time again.
That's why I hate team sports.
And that was, we've spoken about a million times, and that's why I tend to agree with you as well. But there are thousands and thousands of instances where kids can be made great when you're put in the position or around somebody that knows how to get the greatness out.
And that's the job of a coach. Isn't it to take the person to make them better?
But even more so, the job of administration to realize
is to
protect it and to do that. But again, when you have an administrator who said it to my face that we're not concerned with that, talk to me about academics. This is what you're dealing with here. So of course, then you want to know why there's no punishments or sanctions, and these guys can do whatever they want. Okay? We had a coach who spoke so inappropriately to a player. Okay? And the year before, something happened, not as bad as what happened the following year, but as it was described to me, unacceptable behavior. Know what was done? Nothing. Nothing.
You should have made him sign the waiver.
Oh yeah, trust me. I got waivers out for all those dudes, and they know who they are. Trust me, and they can come down here and sign them any day.
Or more importantly, you don't have to sign the waiver. Just come down here and explain your side of the story.
Exactly. Come down here and be a man.
Yeah.
Exactly. Come down. You don't need to sign a waiver.
Because look, like if he's wrong and he's crazy, then come down here and show us he's wrong, he's crazy.
That's right.
And I got to be honest. I'm impartial when it comes to whatever he's talking about. I have my own fight to fight that I have. But I have to be honest, from what I'm hearing, it just sounds like it's not right. It's just not right. And it's not fair.
Doesn't sound fair because one town could have a really great coach with a really
and they do
program.
Doing the right things.
Oh yeah. And the town next to it could just be like your town, what you're saying, and you kind of have no control.
You have no control.
Sport.
Yeah, and it's a team
politics.
sport. And politics. And the point, and the fact of the matter is, again, when they all listen, it's a liberal bureaucracy. They circle the wagons around. They're all union people. We're going to protect our own. And guess what? Even in the face of adversity, you don't see it now in politics. The Democrats, the party of tolerance. But they can attack people. They can yell at people. They can insult people. But then they're the party of tolerance. So don't you see where it trickles down from? It's a bigger picture. That's where it comes from, because that's what they all are. It's the same thing. But then what happens is, oh man, they're causing problems or doing this and that. But meanwhile, I can sit there at football games last year and hear another parent tell me that if her kid gets benched, she'll have the coach fired. In front of a gazillion witnesses. But nobody talks about that. Okay? Nobody talks about an email sent out by the Gridiron about how everything that's been done was lies and none of it's true. And when you present that email to an administrator who acts like they're upset about it and it was wrong, guess what?
It doesn't do it.
And meanwhile, those people in that Gridiron were shit-talking this coach and these coaches all season long. And this is the hypocrisy of it all. Right. That's my point. Because now, the next wave comes in and it's all good and said. That's my point. So again, it's like, come on down. Explain to us why you're wrong. Why we're wrong, why I'm wrong, why he's wrong. Explain it.
Thank God it had nothing to do with football in the Fairfield.
Yeah, but this is what it comes down to. But I think from a greater spectrum, let's face it, you have no culture in New Fairfield, with the exception of lacrosse, okay? And the head coach there built that. And guess what? At the end of the day, they win. So you can't argue a winner. You may not like the methods or the process, but at the end of the day, when you're winning, okay?
Life is good.
Life is good. Life is good. And that's male and female there. They're both state champs from last time I checked. So bottom line is, how could you say anything to anybody when you're winning? You'd be a fool. Period. Keep your mouth shut. enjoy it and deal with the process because the results are there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but guess what? Even if the results are there, if the coaches are still breaking the rules, they're breaking the rules.
Thank you.
I don't care if we've won everything and we're state champions for 20 years in a row.
Yeah.
If bad shit is happening, it needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how good Penn State was.
Joe Paterno.
There you go.
Goodbye.
His legacy got destroyed.
Yep.
Because bad shit was happening,
right.
and the administration was hiding it, and he was part of that administration.
Of course he was. He was.
Guess what, guys? Eventually it comes out.
That's right.
You can only hide for so long because you know what? You're going to eventually run into somebody who's saying, that's all I can stand. I can't stand no more.
But what's going to happen in the future? We only have a few minutes left, but this is not resolved.
It's not resolved.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen in the future. Stay tuned for the next podcast, and you're going to find out what's going to happen in the future because it'll all be revealed.
Yeah. Put it this way. These individuals were looked at in the face and they were told straight on, you try me and you see what happens. And I'm not alone.
Will you have a guest?
Yes. We'll have more than one guest.
Are they from New Fairfield?
Yes. And the fact of the matter is that guess what? You were warned. And because things weren't done correctly and apologies weren't made and things weren't made whole, this is what happens.
And discipline wasn't handed out to the people that broke the rules. Let's be honest. Listen, all that other stuff is good, but if you're breaking rules and you're a coach,
yep,
that's just not right.
Not once, but twice, 2 years in a row. Multiple times.
Just it's so sad because some people are less fortunate than you guys. Let's say that parents are working like nonstop and they can't get involved. Like you're involved, giving your opinion. I mean, people do what they want.
Listen, I got involved only in the sense that I tried to fix the problem. But when you're dealing with people that don't think there's a problem, they don't want to fix it. And then also when you had a kid who has talent and you knew it was being squandered and it wasn't being utilized properly because you did what he did on another sport, and they're like, this is what needs to be done. And thank God it all worked out. But that's because we took the initiative and had the resources to do that. So guess what? That's ultimately what it comes down. It comes down to poor administration, poor coaching, poor human beings, and then surrounding people that drink the Kool-Aid. I think that's what puts it. And the temple is be aware of it and don't sit back and wait for it to happen to affect your kid. Guys, the Matt Chat podcast with myself, Paul Ciotto, Christopher Shea. Stay tuned. We're going to revisit this soon enough. Catch you next time.